and welcome back to my channel. Today I've got some fun Christmas DIYs to share with you using things you probably already have. So if you want to know how to make them, stick around. I'll show you how. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Right, next one. Okay, for this one, I'm going to take one of the Dollar Tree pool noodles and I'm going to cut one at 5 inches and one at 6 inches. Next, I'm going to take a wooden ring that measures 2.5 inches and then a wooden coaster that measures 3 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to use 2 of each of these for each one of my noodles. And it's just going to slide over the top. We're going to make some vintage spools. So you just want to make sure that your noodle fits over that on both ends. And then you're going to center that on top of your coaster. Just make sure it's in the center and on the top too. And then we're going to do a circle around both of those just so we can make sure that when we glue these on, they are centered onto our coasters. And then flip that one over and do the same thing on that side. I'm sorry you can't see what I'm doing, but you're literally just drawing a circle around that ring to make sure it is in the center. And you'll see it here when I take it off so you can see the markings. I am doing 2 of these spools, so go ahead and measure both of them if you're doing 2. To attach our ring to our little coaster, we're just going to take some wood glue. And I got these coasters and these rings on Amazon. I'll give you the link for these. But you want to put a generous amount of the wood glue and then make sure you get it centered good and then get any of the excess glue off before it dries. And you're going to do that to all 4 of your coasters and rings. But you do want to set these aside and let them dry really good before you go to the next step. And if you don't have a pool noodle, you can go to the hardware store and get some pipe insulation. It's going to be a little bit thinner. You just have to have a smaller ring. Next, if you can see any of the pencil marks showing, just take an eraser and kind of clean up that edge. Next, I'm going to take some Minwax Jacobean stain, and I'm going to stain all 4 of my pieces. And I'm just using a soft rag on this. Just get it really blended in good. I think I only did put 1 coat on this. This Jacobean goes really dark right off the bat. You don't have to do the inside of your ring if you don't want to. I did, but you'll not see that part, so really don't worry about that part. But you do want to get the outside edge and around the ring and the top part of the ring. Any part that's going to show. Now you can see some of the wood stain right there. I'll show you what we're going to do to cover that up here in just a little bit. Once you get all your rings painted, you're just going to take a paintbrush and some of that stain and then just go inside around the edge. Now this is an oil-based stain, so to clean your paintbrush, you can just use some fingernail polish remover. It works really good. I'm just pouring a little bit out on my table right here and just running my brush through it. Now this works good too. If you get spray paint on your hands, fingernail polish remover will take that off as well. And if you have some areas that the stain doesn't take, just get you some dark brown paint and then just brush it in. This will all blend in here real good. After all that's dried, we're just going to take some hot glue, put it right into the center of our ring and around the edge, and we're just going to squeeze our noodle on in here. Just make sure it does stand up straight. And then you're going to put the cap on the opposite side. Just really spend some time making sure that these stand up straight. You do have some wiggle room right here. Just make sure that they are straight. Next, I'm going to take some brown craft paper and I'm going to cut it into strips. And I know the video looks a little bit weird. I actually had it on time lapse and I had to slow it down. So I apologize for this section right here. Next, we're going to start at the top of our noodle and we're just going to put a little glue right there and we're going to start wrapping this up. We're just covering up the noodle. So really it doesn't matter what color noodle that you get. You're just going to completely cover it up with the paper. And I think I did a couple of times around with the paper. Just make sure you get it tucked down into the ring as well. I'm just going to use a bone folder to kind of tuck it up into there on both sides. And then I'm going to add a second one, and I'm going to do the same thing with my other one. So you're going to put 2 layers of this paper around here to cover up your noodle. And this will prep it for what we're going to do next so that you can glue to it without burning up your noodle. So I'm just going to take some cotton fabric and I'm going to cut it into strips, and I'm cutting it into about maybe 1 inch to 1 1/4 inch strips. And it doesn't have to be wrinkle free because you're going to pull this all the way around your spool. You're not going to see any wrinkles, but just cut several strips of this because we are going to wrap it around our noodle 2 times. And you can use whatever kind of fabric you want. I just tried to find something that kind of had a vintage look to it. I'm going to use a green and white, and then I'm going to use a red and white as well. Okay, next you're going to pull all the frayed sides off of this. You want it to have some frayed look on the sides, so definitely spend some time on this part, making it look more vintage like this. And I did take quite a bit of string off both sides. Next, I'm going to start with the largest one of my spools. I'm just going to wrap this around. And if you have any strings as you're going down, just remove them as you're going. I had several of them that I had to pull off while I was doing this. And then just keep going all the way around at a diagonal till you get to the bottom. But definitely get all the strings that are hanging off of there. And then once you get to the end of your fabric, you're just going to glue that on. And then we're going to start our next piece of fabric right next to that one, overlapping. Go all the way down to the bottom and start going all the way back up to the top. And we'll cover those little sections that joined here in a little bit as we go back up. So you're not going to see those. But you want to go down to the bottom and then start going back up to the top. And then we're going to glue that one in, and then we're going to add one more piece of fabric to finish this off. So go all the way up to the top and then come back down over where you just did those two joining pieces, cover those up, and then we're just going to add a little vintage pin down at the bottom to hold all this together. For the smaller spool, I'm doing the same thing, but I'm using a red and white pillow ticking, and I got this at Hobby Lobby. I got the green and white fabric from Hobby Lobby too. But you're just going to do this one exactly the same way you just did the other one. Okay, next to distress these a little bit, I'm using some of the Tim Holtz Distressing ink in the walnut stain color, and I'm just going to rub it all over this. I just wanted to give this a little bit more of a vintage vibe. If you don't like the vintage look, you can skip this part completely. But I am putting quite a bit on this to kind of tone down the white. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the red and white one as well. So I'm going to take one of the 4-inch cones I got at Hobby Lobby, and then some of the green garland I got at Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to wrap this around this entire tree. So just wrap the tip right there, then put a little bit of glue on top, and then just stick that down and let that dry. Then continue to wrap all the way around till you get to the bottom of your cone. And this is a great garland to pick up right now at Hobby Lobby. You can use it for a lot of different projects. You just kind of take your time on this. You want to make sure that you cover up that cone completely. Just go all the way around. And just make sure that once you get to the end, you are going to make sure that you don't have any white showing on the bottom. Cut that off and then just glue that last piece in. Fluff that up. Just take your nails and kind of rub it up and down on there, and then that will fluff up really nicely. Okay, next I got these little wood rounds at Hobby Lobby, and I'm just going to glue it right to the bottom. This is going to be like the trunk of our tree. And then you're going to take some more of that garland, and you're going to finish wrapping it around the bottom to cover up the rest of that white. And it's just going to take one little strip to go around there. You just want to make sure that you do this part because you don't want that to show at all. And then I'm just going to glue this to the top of my spindle. And I made 2 of these, and I'm gluing one to both of them. Just kind of center it right in the center. To give it a little bit of snow effect, I'm taking some white acrylic paint and a chip brush, and I'm just going to start brushing my tree. Now wipe off a lot of your paint onto a paper towel first so you don't have so much paint. You just want enough to where it looks like it's been dusted with snow. And I'm doing both of mine that way. I think these really turned out cute. To finish them off, I'm just going to add some little brown bells to them. And I had 8 of these little bells. They were bells that I spray painted brown last year, just some little bells, jingle bells. And I'm putting 4 on each one of my trees. And I'm just kind of randomly spacing them. And then I did the exact same thing for the second tree. The final touch, I'm just going to take a piece of jute. I'm just going to tie it right around the trunk, and I'm just going to tie it into a bow. These were pretty simple. I thought these turned out so cute. Let me know what you think in the comments. For this one, I'm using one of the Dollar Tree wreaths, and I'm using some chunky yarn, and I am going to hand crochet this all the way around here. And this is real easy. All you do is you make a loop, run it through, and there's your first little slip knot. You're going to run it to the back, run your loop through it, And then you're going to take your yarn, go around the bottom to the back, and then loop it into the back part of that loop. And then pull that through the same size, and then you're going to run it through the front, pull that through, and then you're going to run it to the back and pull it through, and you're going to continue to go around like this all the way around. Just try to make sure that your loops are the same size. So you're going to go front loop, and then you're going to come through the back loop. And this gives it a nice stitch all the way around the wreath. And when you get done, you'll see that you have a nice little crocheted stitch all the way around the outside. And just kind of keep pushing it together. You want to make sure that you do get it tight because you don't want to see any of the wreath through it. And I'm going to go kind of fast on this so you can see what I'm doing, but not just sit there and watch me just loop this through. And you know, if you had a large crochet hook, you might be able to do that too. I didn't have one, so I am using my hands to do this. And then you can just take a time and spend a little bit of time just kind of straightening it up at the top. And it only took one skein of this yarn to do this. If you can't find a chunky yarn, you can put two together to do the same effect. But I think I got this at Hobby Lobby. And they always, Michael's has these, Hobby Lobby has these. They always have the chunky yarn at this time of year. But you do want to continue to pull it around so it is tight and so that you cover up your entire wreath. In real time, this really only took about 20 minutes to run this through. And then once you get to the end, just kind of really pull it around there. Make sure that you do have it completely covered. And then when we get to the end, we're just going to cut our yarn off and then we're going to run it through the back. And you can see how pretty that stitch is all the way around there. It just really is a nice looking wreath. And you don't have to use a wire wreath. You could use a round wreath or a straw wreath, you know, that's covered with plastic or something like that. It doesn't have to be a flat wreath. And then when we get to the end, we're just going to run that through that loop. We're going to cut our string off. And then we're going to just pull it through that loop and pull it tight. And then we're just going to go to the back and we're just going to tuck it in on the back. Just make sure that you do get it pulled pretty tight, and then you're just going to run it through the back. And then just cut that off. And then just take some time and kind of straighten it up. Just make sure that your loops are all at the top and that they all kind of look the same. To make my hanger, I'm just going to take a satin blue ribbon and I'm just going to run it right through the top part. And that's what I'm going to attach it to my door with. So just run it through there, pull it long. I'm not sure how long I'm going to make mine right now. I'm just going to pull it out there and just kind of leave that in place. Decorate my wreath. I just got this little white deer at Target last year, and I'm just going to put it right on the front, kind of straddled over the wreath in the center, and I'm just going to glue it in. I'm not putting a lot of glue, just a little bit of glue to hold it in place. And you want to put a little bit on the back as well. Okay, next I'm going to add some greenery. I got this on Amazon. I'll give you the link for it. And I'm just going to cut the sticks a little bit short so I can stick it into the wreath. I'm just inserting them on both sides. I'm going to put two on each side. And then you are going to leave a little bit of gap between them because we are going to put some other greenery there as well. So I think I'm leaving about maybe an inch right there. And then once you get them in there, then we're just going to take our glue gun and just spot glue them in. And you're going to do both sides exactly like that. Okay, next I'm adding a little birch wood block that I got at Hobby Lobby. I'm just going to glue it right in the center. And you get quite a few of those in a bag. They come in a pretty good size bag. And give a little bit more texture, I'm coming in with a couple little green sprigs. I got these from Amazon too. I'll give you the link for those. This just gives a little bit more texture. I'm just going to put one on each side, and I'm going to put one right at the top to kind of blend the deer into the whole scene. And then I'm just going to take a glue gun and then just glue these in. And you get a really big box of those on Amazon. I will give you the link for those. And to add a little color to match my ribbon, I'm just going to take these little ornaments and I'm just going to glue them right in. And I think I got those at Hobby Lobby. They're just kind of a smaller ornament. And then I'm going to add one just like it to the opposite side. This just gives it a little bit of balance. Finish it off. I'm just going to take one of the bells I got at Hobby Lobby. I'm just going to cut the backing off of it. And I just spray painted those with a brown paint. And I'm just going to glue that right on top of my little wood round. Finish this off. I'm just going to add a few of the little pine cones. And I got those in a pretty good size bag from Hobby Lobby. And if you follow me on my other channel, I'll link the video where I did a shopping trip at Hobby Lobby and show you some of the things that I bought to do crafting with for this season. And some of these things I'm using today are some of the things that I use. And I'll give you a link to that video in the description below. Okay, I think that turned out so pretty. Let me know what you think in the comments. This last one, I'm just taking a log that a friend of mine gave me, and I'm going to completely clean it off. Now, this has been in my garage in a bucket for probably about a year, and I'm just going to clean all the debris off of it because I am going to spray paint it. So you want to make sure that you get it completely cleaned off. You just want to make sure you don't have any particles left on it. Okay, next I'm going to take a clear matte spray paint, and I'm going to spray probably 3 different coats on this. So spray it, let it dry, spray it again, let that dry. This just really does bring the pretty wood color out so you can see it good. I definitely recommend spraying it, and it also seals up any openings in it. If you were thinking you might have a bug in there or something, I've just had this in here in my garage so long I know there's no bugs in it. Okay, next I got this acrylic deer at Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to spray paint it with a brown paint. Now I'm using a lighter brown paint on here, and then I did go back and put a little bit darker because it was a little bit too shiny for me. But you want to take your time on this. You want to spray it, let it dry, and spray it again. You don't want any runs on your deer. Next, I got these little bottle brush trees I've used on other projects, and I'm just going to twist the base of it off. And I'm just going to kind of straighten it up. Now, these I had in the past. I had spray painted them another green color, a little bit better green color, and had kind of put a little bit of white snow on them. So I'm using these from a project that I had in the past. And I'm going to use a large one and then kind of a medium-sized one. Okay, next I'm just going to attach my deer, and I'm just going to use some hot glue on this. Now you can use E6000 glue if you'd rather. I'm just using hot glue because I'm going to put all my greenery around it and it will hold it all in place. Next I'm taking some greenery sprigs that I got from Amazon, and I am cutting the wire off of all these. And I'll give you the link for these. I'm going to just start attaching this to my piece of wood. I'm going to add quite a bit of greenery to this. And then you can kind of bend it around the wood so it does have the shape of the wood. And I'm going to kind of go fast on this so you can see how much greenery I'm adding, but not just sit here and watch me glue. But I am going to add quite a bit. And if you don't have this kind of greenery, you could use a garland and cut it up as well. But you want to go underneath the deer, all around the deer. But I am adding quite a bit. And turn it different ways so that it's not all going the same way. Just kind of really fill it up with the greenery. And then that's how much I added. Next, I'm going to add my trees. Now, I'm going to put those into the back. So I'm going to bend their wire over. And then I'm going to drill a hole into the back of my wood to slide those pieces of wire in. I just want this kind of to sit in the background on my piece of wood, not in the center of it. And then I'm just going to line it up into the back. And that's where I'm going to drill my hole. And I'm going to drill my hole deep enough to get that all the way in there so that when I glue it in, it stays in place. And then I'm going to put my other little tree on the opposite side, and I'm going to drill a hole for it as well. And then you can kind of see it's just going to go set in there. Really, even without glue, it's just going to hold in place. And then I'm going to put another one on the opposite side. But I am going to glue those in once I get this one drilled out too. And just bend your wire over till it goes right to the center of the piece of wood, and you can just slide that right in there. And this was a pretty hard piece of wood, but my drill bit worked pretty good through this. To attach these, I am going to use some E6000 glue along with some hot glue because I want to make sure this stays in place. So I'm going to put the E6000 glue down into the hole, and then I'm going to put glue onto the bottom of the tree to put it in here. And I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side as well. Just use a little bit of E6000 glue just to make sure it does hold good. And then just finish it out with the hot glue, put a little bit of glue around your tree, and then just pop that right into that hole. And then I'm going to attach my other tree exactly the same way. To dress it up a little bit, I'm just going to add some pine cones. Now, if you watch when your neighbors are trimming their trees or anybody that's trimming their trees, drive around on trash day, and you usually can find some people that have put limbs and things like that out at the street, and you can grab up some of these. You can also find some logs like these on Facebook Marketplace. A lot of people are selling these as well, and they're very inexpensive. Next, to finish this off, I'm just going to add some snow effect with it. I'm going to take some acrylic paint and a chip brush, and I'm just going to lightly brush this on. And then I'm going to put some of it onto my log as well, just to kind of blend it all together. I did end up going back in and adding quite a bit of the snow. All right, this was pretty simple to do. Let me know what you think in the comments. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video today. I hope it gave you some inspiration. If you like these kind of videos, be sure and give me a like, subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified when I have a new video upload. Thank y'all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And if nobody's told you today, you're awesome. See you next time. Thanks for watching.